Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on a fascinating exploration into C2 English mastery. Our focus is on advanced vocabulary, not just for, acing those demanding exams, but really for elevating your communication, giving you a distinct edge as a highly proficient English speaker. This isn't about rote memorization. It's about gaining a powerful toolkit.
That's precisely it. At the C2 level, the entire expectation shifts. It's no longer merely about being understood, right? It's about demonstrating a near-native command of the language.
Near-native command, okay.
Which means moving decisively beyond everyday expressions. It means embracing words that can convey, subtle shades of meaning, articulate complex emotions, and express ideas with remarkable accuracy. It's a real leap from simply getting by to communicating with profound impact and precision.
Here, whether you're aiming for top scores in challenging exams like the Cambridge C2 proficiency, or maybe you just aspire to communicate with greater influence in your professional or personal life, a strong grasp of this high-level vocabulary is absolutely central, isn't it?
Indeed. And the beauty of the language we'll explore today is how it's woven into the very fabric of sophisticated discourse. Things like deep academic discussions, nuanced debates, incisive editorials, compelling literature.
Right.
These are environments where even the slightest shift in meaning, conveyed by a single, perfectly chosen word, can fundamentally alter the entire impact of a statement. It's quite powerful.
So our mission in this deep dive is really to distill those essential insights for you, showing how these words aren't just abstract concepts, but truly practical instruments for, elevated communication. They're tools to sharpen your expression. Let's begin by exploring words that empower you to voice disapproval or criticism with extraordinary specificity. This goes far beyond just saying, "I don't like it." This section is about arming you with the precise word to articulate the exact nature of your objection.
What's truly fascinating here is how these words grant you the power to express varying intensities and forms of criticism. We're talking about everything from, sharp individual remarks right up to profound institutional condemnation. Understanding these distinctions isn't just about sounding more knowledgeable. It fundamentally helps you navigate complex social and professional landscapes. It allows you to choose your words to match the gravity and context of any given situation. It is, in essence, exercising masterful linguistic control.
So let's dive into expressing disapproval. Sometimes the intent is personal, maybe even biting. Is there a word that captures that kind of sharp, wounding remark?
You're thinking of caustic. It describes something said in a really scathing and bitter way, designed to wound or diminish.
So it has a deliberate, almost destructive intent behind it, like it's meant to hurt.
Absolutely. Imagine this. Her caustic remarks about his performance hurt his feelings deeply. It's more than just a negative comment. It carries an intentional bitterness, almost like acid meant to sting. You can almost feel that word.
Ouch.
This kind of language is often found in, say, highly polarized debates or, online arguments where the objective isn't understanding, but maybe intellectual demolition. It's destructive, not constructive.
Yeah, ouch. That's certainly impactful. Now, while caustic might be that personal biting comment, what about disapproval that carries significant official weight? You mentioned institutional condemnation.
That brings us neatly to censure. This is far from a casual disagreement. To censure means to express severe formal disapproval, typically from an authoritative body.
Like a professional committee or maybe an organization?
Precisely. Consider the example. The committee voted to censure the politician for his inappropriate behavior. Unlike a boss simply reprimanding an employee, censure implies a public official condemnation. It's often formally recorded.
Right.
And it carries substantial reputational consequences. A professional board, for instance, might very well censure a doctor for a grave instance of malpractice. It signifies a serious loss of confidence, a calculated institutional response to a breach of conduct.
That distinction between personal and official formal disapproval is really clear. Now, that brings us to chastise. How does that compare? Is it similar to censure in intensity?
It has overlap, definitely, but chastise often suggests a more immediate, direct rebuke, sometimes emotionally charged, too. To chastise means to rebuke or reprimand severely, usually involving a clear power dynamic, like a parent or teacher.
Ah, okay. So I'm picturing a teacher sternly correcting a student. Can you give us an example that really brings chastise to life?
Certainly. The teacher chastised the student for cheating on the examination. The focus here is on the act of severe correction, often from a position of authority with the intent to correct behavior or teach a lesson. It's about correction, but often with a visible verbal sting.
Right. So censure carries that formal public weight, while chastise is more about direct, severe reprimand, often to correct someone. That distinction clarifies it.
It does. Censure is often institutional. Chastise can be more personal or hierarchical, but still pretty severe.
Okay, that makes sense. Then we have condone. This feels quite different again, almost like a passive act.
It is quite different. To condone means to accept and allow behavior that is considered morally wrong or offensive. More passive, yes.
So passive acceptance. Like the school does not condone bullying in any form whatsoever. Is that a good example?
Exactly. This word dives deep into moral responsibility, or perhaps the profound lack thereof. It's about a passive acceptance of something negative, implying a failure to prevent it or speak out against it, even if you don't actively approve.
Right, just letting it happen.
It's turning a blind eye, essentially. And that can lead to significant damaging consequences, implying complicity through inaction.
That's a crucial distinction. Not outright approval, but a failure to act.
Okay?
And then there's denounce. This sounds much stronger, much more active than condone.
Much more active, yes. To denounce is to publicly declare something to be wrong or evil. It's a strong public condemnation.
Think of an activist, perhaps.
Precisely. The activist denounced the government's environmental policies. It's about calling out perceived wrongdoing for all to hear, often carrying a real moral or ethical fervor. You're not just disagreeing, you're stating publicly that this is fundamentally wrong, often with conviction.
Okay, so denounce is a very public, strong moral stand against something. How does that differ from, say, deplore? They sound a bit similar.
Good question. Deplore also involves strong disapproval, but it often carries a deeper sense of regret or sadness about the situation. It means to feel or express strong disapproval of something, often something you lament.
So there's a strong emotional element of regret, perhaps.
Yeah.
A more mournful tone.
That's an excellent way to put it. Yeah, mournful fits. Consider, she deplored the violence shown in modern television programs. It conveys a deep, often emotional sense of disapproval and regret. It's about lamenting something you find deeply troubling or unfortunate. While denounce is public condemnation, deplore can be more about expressing deep personal sorrow or disappointment about something wrong.
I see, okay. And finally, in this section on criticism, deride. This sounds negative too, maybe even more dismissive than the others.
Oh, definitely negative. To deride someone or something is to express contempt for them, to ridicule, to mock.
Mockery is central to it, then, like laughing at someone.
Yeah, absolutely. The critics derided his latest novel as pretentious and boring. This is about making someone or something seem worthless or absurd. It's often dismissive, aimed at belittling or scornfully laughing at the target. It lacks the formal weight of censure or the moral outcry of denounce. It's more about scornful, contemptuous laughter.
Quite a range there. From the stinging caustic remark to the formal censure, the passive condone, the public denounce, the regretful deplore, and the mocking deride. It really gives you precision, doesn't it? Choosing the right word completely changes the tone and implication. That's a powerful set.
It really is.
Now, as you encounter these in your reading, remember to be that word detective. Ask yourself, why did the author use caustic here instead of just sharp? That's how these words truly stick.
A crucial point. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these words are absolutely essential for critical thinking in our, well, information-rich, sometimes overwhelming world. They help you distinguish between, say, well-supported arguments and mere speculation or even deliberate misinformation. They are your intellectual tools for discernment, helping you cut through the noise.
You know, for me, this next section is where the power of C2 vocabulary truly comes alive. In a world awash with fake news and conflicting narratives, how do you arm yourself to discern genuine truth from carefully constructed illusion? These words aren't just vocabulary, they're your intellectual compass. It feels almost like gaining a superpower in an age of constant information flow.
That's a fantastic way to put it, a superpower for navigating truth. And the first word that comes to mind in this realm is cogent. This describes an argument that is clear, logical, and thoroughly convincing.
Cogent. Got it.
So you give us an example.
Certainly. She presented a cogent argument for increasing the education budget. The strength of a cogent argument lies in its internal logic and clarity. It's not merely about emotional appeal or how loudly it's presented. It's an argument that genuinely persuades because it makes perfect sense. It appeals to reason and holds together intellectually, with each point building logically upon the last.
So you walk away thinking, yeah, okay, that makes sense, that's sound.
Exactly. It has intellectual integrity.
Okay, so cogent is about a strong, logical argument. What about verifying information, confirming something, backing it up?
Ah, that leads us to corroborate. This means to confirm or give support to a statement, theory, or finding.
So, like providing backup evidence, like a second source.
Precisely. The
Yeah.
witness testimony corroborated the defendant's alibi perfectly. This word is essential in legal settings, scientific research, journalism, anywhere where credibility needs reinforcing through additional evidence from multiple sources. One piece of evidence might suggest something. Corroborating evidence makes it much stronger and more reliable.
That makes so much sense. It really hammers home the ethical dimension. Very important. But on the flip side of carefully evaluating evidence, we have credulous.
Yes. This describes someone who has, well, too great a readiness to believe things, maybe too trusting.
You mentioned it highlights a fundamental vulnerability. What does that look like in a real-world scenario beyond just financial scams?
It's broader than that. The credulous investor fell for the elaborate financial scam. Is a classic, sure. But think of someone who's credulous regarding online headlines, uncritically accepting them without fact-checking.
Ah, yeah. Happens all the time.
It highlights a fundamental vulnerability stemming from a lack of critical thinking or perhaps excessive trust. A credulous person isn't necessarily unintelligent, but they might suspend their skepticism too easily, making them highly susceptible to manipulation or misinformation.
That's a powerful word for uncritical acceptance, especially now in our information age, where it can have very real-world consequences. It makes me think about how easily we can fall prey to dubious information online if we're not careful.
Definitely. Which brings up the idea of skepticism. Is there a word for that healthy distrust?
Well, cynical is related, but it's perhaps gone a step further. Cynical means believing that people are motivated purely by self-interest, being distrustful of human sincerity or integrity.
Okay, so not just skeptical, but assuming the worst motives often, seeing the negative angle.
Yes, his cynical attitude made it difficult for him to trust anyone.
A cynical perspective can sometimes be a defense mechanism, right? A way to avoid being disappointed or cheated. But it can also become a barrier to genuine connection, to trusting others or believing in good intentions. It paints a rather bleak view of humanity, always expecting the hidden angle.
That's a great way to phrase it. It can be quite limiting, yes. Yeah. What about when facts just don't line up, when things don't match, when something feels off?
That's a discrepancy, a lack of compatibility or similarity between two or more facts.
A simple enough concept, but it often signals something deeper, doesn't it? Like a warning sign.
Absolutely. There was a discrepancy between his story and the evidence. Recognizing a discrepancy is your first red flag, signaling not just a difference, but a gap that demands deeper investigation. Whether it's in financial reports, witness statements, or even a friend's changing story, it's where genuine critical thinking begins.
That's incredibly helpful. And if you spot a discrepancy, you might become dubious.
Precisely. Dubious means hesitating or doubting, not to be relied upon, suspect.
So she was dubious about the accuracy of his claims. It implies a healthy skepticism then, not jumping to conclusions.
It does. It signifies a healthy skepticism, perhaps prompted by a discrepancy or just a gut feeling. It's an unwillingness to accept something at face value due to doubts about its reliability or truthfulness. It's a questioning state, and often a wise one. Now, sometimes that doubt is very well founded, especially if you encounter duplicity.
Duplicity. Okay, this sounds more serious than just being dubious. More intentional.
Oh, it is. Duplicity speaks to acts of deceitfulness, double dealing. His duplicity was revealed when his lies were exposed. This describes a deliberate act of deception, often involving a two-faced nature or hidden intentions. It implies calculated dishonest behavior, not just a single lie, but often a pattern designed specifically to mislead or betray trust.
So someone is presenting one face while secretly acting in another way. Calculated dishonesty. That makes duplicity feel much more sinister than just being dishonest. And building on that idea, untruthfulness, what about arguments built on false beliefs? Faulty reasoning.
That brings us to fallacious. An argument is fallacious if it's based on a false belief or unsound reasoning.
So like a fundamental flaw in the logic, it just doesn't add up.
Exactly. His argument was fallacious and based on incorrect assumptions. This is absolutely crucial for evaluating arguments. It signals a fundamental flaw in the logic or the foundation, rendering the argument invalid or unsound, even if the conclusion happens to be true by chance. Recognizing a fallacious argument is key to intellectual honesty and making sound decisions, enabling you to dissect the underlying reasoning.
Absolutely. For instance, arguing that something is true just because many people believe it, the appeal to popularity, That's a common type of fallacious reasoning, right?
Yeah.
The logic simply doesn't hold up. Now, what if someone isn't just using faulty logic, but actively inventing falsehoods, making stuff up?
Then they fabricate. To fabricate is to invent something falsely, typically with the intent to deceive.
So deliberately making things up, lying intentionally.
Precisely. The witness fabricated his testimony to protect his friend. This is about the direct creation of falsehoods. It's different from being merely mistaken or even credulous in believing something untrue. Fabrication is a deliberate invention, a conscious act of dishonesty.
Okay, deliberate invention of lies. And if that fabrication is part of, say, a crime or illegal activity, then we might call it fraudulent.
Yes, fraudulent describes something dishonest or fake, often in an illegal or official context. It involves intentional deception for personal gain or to damage another individual or entity.
So linked directly to fraud and illegality. Got it.
The investigation revealed fraudulent activities in the company's accounting. This focuses squarely on the illegality and the intent to defraud. It fundamentally undermines trust in systems like financial markets or legal processes because it implies calculated deception for illicit gain.
Wow. Okay, so from cogent arguments to fraudulent schemes, that's a really powerful set of words for navigating the complex world of information and truth. It truly is. And understanding these distinctions equips you to be a much more critical consumer and producer of information. Now, remember the tip about being a word detective. With these words, think about situations in your own life or maybe in the news where you could pinpoint duplicity or identify a fallacious argument. That active application is key.
That's an excellent way to transition. And now let's shift gears slightly, moving beyond just facts and arguments. These C2 words also give us a much richer palette, don't they, to describe emotions, attitudes, and fundamental states of being.
They really do. They help us pinpoint the precise feeling or condition, allowing for deeper, more empathetic, and accurate communication about the human experience. It's about providing the vocabulary to truly articulate the nuances of the human psyche in intricate scenarios, moving beyond just broad strokes like happy or sad. So where should we start with these states of being?
A good starting point, perhaps a cautionary one, is complacent. This describes showing smug or uncritical satisfaction with oneself or one's achievements.
Complacent, right? Like resting on your laurels, perhaps becoming too comfortable, too satisfied.
Exactly. The team became complacent after their early success in the season. This illustrates the real danger of overconfidence and a resulting lack of vigilance. It implies a lack of motivation to improve because one is too satisfied, often leading to stagnation, missed opportunities, or vulnerability to challenges they didn't see coming. It's a kind of self-satisfied blindness.
I've definitely seen that happen, where success breeds a lack of urgency or awareness. Okay, what about trying to smooth things over when there's conflict? Making peace.
Then you might adopt a conciliatory tone or approach. Conciliatory means intended or likely to placate or pacify.
So to calm things down, to bring about peace, to reconcile.
Yes, he adopted a conciliatory tone to resolve the heated dispute. It highlights the strategic use of language or gestures designed to calm tensions, foster goodwill, or achieve reconciliation. It's about making peace, and crucially, often involves a deliberate effort to diffuse hostility.
Okay, so a conciliatory move aims to reduce hostility. What about feeling genuinely sorry after doing something wrong, that deep sense of guilt?
That state is contrition. Contrition is the state of feeling remorseful and penitent.
So much deeper than just saying sorry then. It's a real feeling.
Much deeper. He showed genuine contrition for his mistakes and apologized sincerely. It emphasizes genuine regret and a desire to make amends. It's a profound sense of remorse, not just a superficial apology. You feel the full weight of your actions and a strong desire to make things right.
That's a powerful word for deep regret. What about the opposite end of the emotional spectrum, feeling profoundly down, maybe having lost all hope, hopeless?
If someone is deeply down, perhaps having lost hope, they might be described as despondent. This means being in low spirits from loss of hope or courage.
So more than just sadness, it implies a certain brokenness of spirit.
It does. He became despondent after failing the important examination. It suggests a deeper state than mere sadness, often linked to a specific setback or loss that drains one's spirit, leading to a sense of hopelessness and discouragement.
Okay, that paints a very clear picture. And what about someone who's maybe quiet or shy, not because they're sad, but because they simply lack self-confidence? Many hesitant.
That person might be diffident. Diffident means modest or shy because of a lack of self-confidence.
Diffident, I like that word, it's a good one. Despite her talent, she remained diffident about her artistic abilities.
It points to a quietness or hesitation that stems from self-doubt, often masking true ability or potential. It's not arrogance, but the opposite, an uncertainty about one's own worth or capabilities.
Right. And then completely the opposite of diffident or despondent, pure energy and cheerfulness,
Yeah.
bouncing off the walls almost.
Ah, you're thinking of ebullient. Ebullient means cheerful and full of energy, exuberant.
Ebullient. It sounds energetic just saying it.
It does, doesn't it? She was ebullient about her acceptance to the prestigious university. It describes a vibrant, overflowing joy and enthusiasm, often highly infectious. Think bubbling, sparkling energy. It's a truly effervescent quality.
Love that description. Okay, shifting again. What about something or someone hard to figure out, mysterious, perhaps alluringly so, puzzling?
That would be enigmatic. Enigmatic means difficult to interpret or understand, mysterious.
Like the classic example, Mona Lisa's enigmatic smile has puzzled viewers for centuries.
Exactly. That quality of being mysterious or puzzling that invites intense curiosity but actively defies easy explanation. It suggests an elusive quality that fascinates, but remains just out of reach of full comprehension. An enigmatic person might be compelling precisely because you can't quite pin them down. They're intriguing because they're so hard to read.
Intriguing. Now, what about strong negative feelings between people, like long-standing hatred or animosity? Real bad blood.
That deep-seated hostility is called enmity. Enmity refers to active hostility or opposition, often mutual.
Enmity. So much more than just dislike then. It sounds really serious.
Much more. The enmity between the two families lasted for generations. It describes a deep-seated active animosity far beyond a simple disagreement or dislike. It implies a state of being enemies, a profound and often enduring antagonism.
Wow, that's intense. Okay, let's go for something lighter now, something beautiful but brief, fleeting, gone in a flash.
You're describing something evanescent. It means fleeting, lasting for a very short time.
Evanescent. It sounds delicate, almost ethereal, like a soap bubble.
It often describes delicate things. The evanescent beauty of the sunset left a lasting impression. This word captures the beauty or profound impact of something transient. It reminds us to appreciate moments precisely because they are impermanent, appearing for only a brief moment before fading away, like a bubble, a wisp of mist, or a fleeting feeling.
It really does have a delicate, transient quality to it. Beautiful word. How about strong positive feelings like passion for a cause, a burning intensity, real dedication?
That would be fervent. Fervent means having or displaying a passionate intensity.
Like a fervent supporter of a cause, someone really committed.
Exactly. She was a fervent supporter of environmental conservation efforts. It signifies deep, heartfelt intensity of emotion or belief. It's not lukewarm, it's burning with passion, indicating a profound and sincere commitment.
Okay. And what about things that change all the time? Unpredictably, almost capriciously. Hard to rely on.
That sounds like fickle. Fickle means changing frequently, especially as it regards one's loyalties, interests, or affection, likely to change unexpectedly.
Fickle, like the weather. That's a perfect everyday example, isn't it?
It is. The fickle weather made it difficult to plan outdoor activities. The word fickle beautifully captures both unpredictability and a lack of steadfastness. While often used for literal things like fickle weather, its true depth emerges when applied to abstract concepts. A fickle public opinion can shift on a dime, or a fickle fortune can bring unexpected reversals. It implies an inherent instability that makes something unreliable.
Right, you can't rely on something fickle. Now, what about being unemotional, objective, almost detached, keeping feelings out of it?
That quality is being dispassionate. It means not influenced by strong emotion and so able to be rational and impartial.
Dispassionate, like a judge needs to be, ideally.
Yeah.
Or a scientist analyzing data.
Yes. The judge remained dispassionate throughout the emotional trial. It signifies the ideal of objectivity, the ability to separate personal feelings from judgment or analysis. It's crucial in many professional contexts, especially those requiring unbiased assessment.
And finally, for this section, you mentioned this earlier too, dissonance, a lack of harmony, a clash.
Yes, exactly. Dissonance refers to a lack of harmony among musical notes, or more broadly, a disagreement or tension between people or ideas.
So it can be used beyond music to describe clashes in ideas or relationships.
Definitely. The dissonance in the relationship became increasingly apparent. It describes a jarring lack of agreement or harmony. It signifies a conflict that creates an unpleasant or unsettling feeling, a clashing of elements, sounds, ideas, beliefs, personalities that just don't quite fit together smoothly. Think of cognitive dissonance, that mental discomfort from holding conflicting beliefs. It's that clash that creates discomfort, not just a simple difference.
That's fascinating. So dissonance isn't just a clash, but a clash that creates discomfort. I can immediately think of how that applies to conflicting team goals, not just music. Okay, that's a fantastic range of words for describing feelings, states, and attitudes. It truly adds depth.
It does. And now let's pivot slightly to how these advanced words help us describe actions themselves. They don't just state what happened, they articulate how it happened or how it was influenced, often revealing the underlying dynamics and implications.
Right. So these terms help us articulate the subtle dynamics of power, persuasion, resistance, that sort of thing, in various situations, from individual interactions right up to broader societal shifts.
Precisely. They provide the granularity to explain not just that something occurred, but the mechanisms and intentions behind its occurrence. This is vital for understanding causality and agency.
Okay, so where do we start with these action-oriented words? How about forcing someone to do something against their will, using pressure?
That would be coerce. To coerce is to persuade an unwilling person to do something by using force or threats.
Coerce. That sounds quite negative, like bullying someone into something.
It generally is. They tried to coerce him into signing the unfavorable contract. The word highlights the ethical implications of compulsion through pressure or threat rather than genuine consent or agreement. It's about overcoming someone's will unfairly, implying a lack of autonomy for the coerced party.
Right. And what about stopping someone from doing something, discouraging them from an action, making them think twice?
That's deter. To deter someone is to discourage them from doing something, typically by instilling doubt or fear of the consequences.
Deter, like a deterrent. A warning sign.
Exactly. The security cameras were installed to deter potential thieves. It focuses on the preventative nature of an action aimed at dissuading undesirable behavior. You're trying to stop something before it happens by making the prospect unattractive or risky.
Okay, coerce is forcing action. Deter is preventing action. What about causing something to happen? Maybe giving rise to a feeling or a situation, making something emerge.
That could be engender. This means to cause or give rise to a feeling, situation, or condition.
Engender. So bringing something into existence, often an abstract concept like a feeling or debate.
Yes. The controversial policy engendered heated debate among citizens. It describes how something effectively produces or creates something else, often an abstract concept like a feeling engender hope, a situation engender conflict, or an outcome. It's a powerful verb of causation, indicating direct creation.
So one thing brings another into existence. What if you're deliberately trying to stir up trouble, almost like a catalyst for chaos, fomenting unrest?
Then you might be trying to ferment something. To ferment means to instigate or stir up an undesirable or violent sentiment or course of action.
Like stirring up rebellion, as you said.
That's a classic example. The radical leader tried to ferment rebellion among the citizens. It implies deliberately instigating or aggravating trouble, disorder, or strong negative feelings. It almost always has a negative connotation, suggesting malicious intent, like a brewing unrest.
Okay, fermenting trouble. But what about stirring people into positive action, like a call to arms for a good cause? That sudden shock that prompts action.
That's more like galvanize. To galvanize means to shock or excite someone into taking action.
Galvanize, like that sudden jolt you mentioned earlier, an electric shock almost, a sudden push.
Exactly. The environmental disaster galvanized the community into action. It implies a strong, immediate stimulus, like an electric shock almost, that propels individuals or groups to move with purpose and urgency. It's often used for sudden, decisive responses to events, sparking a collective effort.
Okay, so engender is causing something, ferment is stirring up trouble, galvanize is shocking into action. What about just making something easier, smoother, helping it along?
That's facilitate. To facilitate means to make an action or process easy or easier, to assist.
Facilitate, like a facilitator at a meeting who smooths the discussion, keeps it moving.
Precisely. They're there to make the discussion easier. The new software will facilitate communication between departments. This word focuses on the helpful role played in making a process smoother, simpler, or more efficient. It's about removing obstacles or providing support to ease a process.
And if you need to make it not just easier but faster, then you expedite, speed it up.
Exactly. To expedite means to make an action or process happen sooner or be accomplished more quickly.
Expedite delivery, for example, paying extra for faster shipping.
Perfect. The company expedited the delivery to meet the urgent deadline. It implies a deliberate action taken to accelerate a process, often because of urgency or priority. It's about speeding things up, making sure something is handled with quick efficiency.
Got it. Coerce, deter, engender, ferment, galvanize, facilitate, expedite. That's a truly comprehensive set for influencing and describing action. Okay, let's now pivot to words that help us describe and define with exceptional clarity. We're talking about words that allow you to paint remarkably clearer pictures, delineate fine details, and disseminate information effectively. Precision words.
You've hit on a crucial point. These words are fundamental for conveying information accurately and avoiding ambiguity. In fields like law, science, complex project management, the ability to delineate and elucidate with such precision isn't just an advantage, it's often an absolute necessity for success.
Okay, so let's start with an act of mercy, especially in a legal sense. How would you describe that? Like a pardon?
That would be clemency. Clemency means mercy or lenience, especially shown toward an offender or enemy.
So typically used in legal contexts, like a governor granting clemency.
Very often. The governor granted clemency to the prisoner on death row. It typically refers to an act of compassion from someone in authority, involving forgiveness or a reduction of punishment. It's a formal granting of mercy, often in cases where strict justice might seem too harsh.
Okay, what about describing a large amount of something? Not just a lot, but more formally. Suggesting abundance, loads of it.
You could use copious. Copious means abundant in supply or quantity.
Like taking copious notes, filling pages and pages.
Exactly. The student took copious notes during the important lecture. It emphasizes a large amount or extensive quantity, often suggesting thoroughness or abundance. You might have copious amounts of food at a feast, or a researcher might gather copious evidence.
Got it. Abundant. Now, what about the opposite of thorough? Quick and superficial. Just skimming.
That's cursory. Cursory means hasty and therefore not thorough or detailed.
A cursory glance. Yes, that's a common pairing. A quick look.
She gave the document only a cursory glance before signing it. It implies a superficial examination, suggesting a lack of thoroughness, which might lead to overlooking important details. It highlights the potential dangers of haste, where speed sacrifices depth.
Right. And what about a distinct lack of something, a significant shortage? Not enough of it.
A significant lack or scarcity is a dearth. Dearth means a scarcity or lack of something.
Like a dearth of qualified candidates, a very common usage in job markets.
There was a dearth of qualified candidates for the specialized position. It highlights a significant deficiency or shortage, emphasizing the negative impact of that lack. A dearth of evidence, a dearth of resources. It implies that something essential is missing and its absence is felt.
Okay. Now, you mentioned delineate earlier as crucial for precision. Can we look at that again? Describing precisely, outlining clearly.
Yes, delineate. It means to describe or portray something precisely, to outline with precision.
Like the architect example. The architect delineated the building plans with meticulous detail, showing every little part.
Precisely. It stresses the act of drawing or describing with extreme accuracy and clarity, laying out boundaries or features so distinctly that every part is perfectly defined. You're not just sketching, you're precisely mapping out every single element, leaving no room for misinterpretation.
That evokes such a clear image of precision. What about a complete lack of something? Utterly empty or devoid of a quality? Totally missing.
That state is being devoid of something. Devoid means entirely lacking or free from.
Devoid of furniture, for instance. An empty room.
The room's devoid of any furniture or decorations. The power of devoid lies in its stark finality. It's not merely empty, but utterly, completely lacking something essential, evoking a sense of desolation or profound absence. Think of a landscape devoid of life, or a statement devoid of truth. It leaves no room for ambiguity.
Okay. Now, what about things designed to teach, perhaps a bit too overtly, almost preachy, hammering home a moral message?
That's didactic. Didactic describes something intended to teach, particularly having moral instruction as an ulterior motive. Like a preachy novel, that's often how it's criticized.
The novel was criticized for being too didactic and preachy. So the lesson overshadows the story. The message is too obvious.
Exactly. It points to literature, art, or even speech that overtly aims to teach a lesson. Sometimes this is fine, but often it's seen negatively if it becomes overly moralistic or sacrifices artistry for the message, making it feel less like art and more like a lecture.
Right. And once you have information, how do you spread it widely, make it accessible to many, get the word out?
You disseminate it. To disseminate means to spread something, especially information, widely.
Disseminate information about health risks, for instance?
Yeah.
Sharing it broadly?
A perfect example. The organization disseminated information about the health risks. This highlights the crucial process of spreading knowledge or information broadly and effectively, making it accessible to a wide audience. It's about ensuring information reaches those who need it, getting the message out far and wide.
And speaking of messages, how do we describe someone who delivers them beautifully and persuasively, almost movingly? A really skilled speaker.
That person is eloquent. Eloquent means fluent or persuasive in speaking or writing.
An eloquent speaker. The eloquent speaker moved the audience to tears.
Yes, it captures the profound power of language to move, persuade, and express thoughts with grace and extraordinary effectiveness. It's not just what they say, but the impactful way they say it, that ability to truly connect through carefully chosen words and masterful delivery.
And what about making something complex clear? Explaining it well, shedding light on it, making it understandable.
That's to elucidate. To elucidate means to make something clear, explain.
Elucidate a theory. Broke it down.
Precisely. The professor elucidated the complex theory with simple examples. It's the act of shedding light on complex ideas, making them understandable, often by breaking them down or providing clear illustrations. It's about bringing clarity and comprehension where there was confusion.
Bringing clarity, I love that. And what if you need absolute clarity, no room for doubt or misinterpretation, like in a legal contract, spelling it out?
Then you need things to be explicit. Explicit means stated clearly and in detail, leaving no room for confusion or doubt.
Explicit terms in a contract. Precisely. No wiggle room.
The contract contained explicit terms regarding payment and delivery. It emphasizes the importance of directness and leaving no ambiguity, particularly in formal documents or instructions. Everything is spelled out clearly and without reservation, removing any potential for misunderstanding.
And finally here, what about information that doesn't belong, that's irrelevant or unnecessary, off-topic stuff?
That information is extraneous. Extraneous means irrelevant or unrelated to the subject being dealt with, unnecessary.
Like extraneous details in an essay, stuff that just distracts.
Yes, the essay contained extraneous information that distracted from the main argument. Identifying what doesn't belong or isn't essential is crucial for concise, focused communication. It's about cutting out the clutter, ensuring every piece of information serves a clear purpose.
Cutting the clutter, great phrase. Okay, that's a brilliant set for achieving clarity. Now let's move to assessing value, impact, and character. Words for judging things, for commending or even condemning, evaluating worth.
Yes, these words help us evaluate, commend, or even condemn actions and their lasting effects. They allow for nuanced judgment and appreciation, moving beyond a simple good or bad.
Right, helping us assess the worth or harm in situations. Let's start with blame. If someone deserves blame, they are
culpable. Culpable means deserving blame, guilty of doing something wrong.
So, assigning responsibility and accountability. The investigation found him culpable for the accident that occurred. He was at fault.
Exactly. It's about assigning responsibility and accountability for wrongdoing or negligence. It implies fault and legal or moral accountability.
Okay, culpable means blameworthy. What about something that causes harm but maybe isn't anyone's direct fault? Like a bad habit or a policy that has negative consequences, harmful effects.
Then it might be detrimental. Detrimental means tending to cause harm.
Smoking is detrimental to your health. The classic example. Bad for you.
Smoking is detrimental to your health and overall well-being. It describes the harmful nature of something, indicating clear negative consequences or adverse effects that can lead to deterioration, lack of sleep, poor diet. These can be detrimental. It points to something that actively causes harm or damage.
Right, causing harm. But on the positive side, if something works really well, achieves its goal effectively, it's
efficacious. Efficacious means successful in producing a desired or intended result, effective.
An efficacious treatment. It actually works.
Precisely. The new treatment proved efficacious in curing the disease. It emphasizes the effectiveness of a method or approach in achieving its specific goal, signifying proven effectiveness and a reliable outcome. It's about being truly potent in producing results.
Good. Now, what if something makes a bad situation even worse? Inflaming it, aggravating it.
That's to exacerbate. To exacerbate means to make a problem, bad situation, or negative feeling worse.
So like exacerbating symptoms, making them more severe.
The medication exacerbated his symptoms instead of improving them. Yes, it highlights the often unintended consequence of worsening a situation, sometimes even through an attempt to help. Pouring fuel on the fire exacerbates it. It intensifies an already negative state.
Right, making things worse. Now, you mentioned exploit earlier with its fascinating dual meaning. Can we revisit that?
Yes, exploit. It can mean to make full use of and derive benefit from a resource, which can be neutral or positive, like exploit an opportunity or exploit your talents using something well.
Uh-huh.
But it can also mean to use a situation or person in an unfair or selfish way, often for personal gain, like the company exploited the natural resources of the region, taking advantage.
So the meaning hinges entirely on context. It can be good or bad.
Context is absolutely key. That dual nature is really tricky, but important to grasp for precise communication.
Okay, what about high praise? Really enthusiastically praising something or someone, singing their praises.
That's to extol. To extol means to praise enthusiastically.
To extol the virtues of something. Really talk it up.
Yes. The critics extol the virtues of the groundbreaking scientific discovery. It's the act of showering high praise, recognizing excellence and significant achievement with great enthusiasm. It's not just a compliment, it's a profound commendation.
Okay, and what if efforts are completely pointless, useless, leading nowhere? A waste of time.
Then they are futile. Futile means incapable of producing any useful result. Pointless.
Futile attempts, trying but failing completely.
Their attempts to revive the failing business proved futile.
Exactly. It conveys a sense of hopelessness when efforts yield no positive result, suggesting they were perhaps doomed from the start or simply ineffective against the odds. It implies a complete lack of success or purpose.
A sense of hopelessness. Okay, what about something that inspires respect or even fear through its impressive size, power, or capability? Daunting.
That thing is formidable. Formidable means inspiring fear or respect through being impressively large, powerful, intense, or capable.
A formidable challenge, a formidable opponent. Someone tough to beat. Perfect examples. The mountain presented a formidable challenge to the experienced climbers. It describes something that is daunting or impressive, often due to its difficulty, size, or power. It commands respect and can also imply a sense of dread due to its overwhelming nature.
Right, and the opposite of formidable or important. Something trivial or without serious value. Silly, almost.
That would be frivolous. Frivolous means not having any serious purpose or value or of a person, carefree and not serious.
Like a frivolous lawsuit, one with no real basis.
Exactly. The court dismissed the frivolous lawsuit as a waste of time. It describes something trivial, lacking substance, or not worth serious consideration. Frivolous spending, frivolous complaints. It implies a lack of seriousness or meaningful impact.
Okay, two more in this assessment section. What about something demanding, requiring great skill, attention, or resources? Demanding precision, tough standards.
That's exacting. Exacting means making great demands on one's skill, attention, or other resources, demanding precision.
Exacting standards, high expectations.
The exacting standards of the competition challenged all participants. Yes, it implies a demand for high standards, meticulousness, and close attention to detail. It often suggests difficulty, but also implies a commitment to quality, a pursuit of perfection. An exacting boss, an exacting task. They require high demands, but often yield high results.
And finally, someone or something worthy of imitation, an outstanding example, a role model.
That's exemplary. Exemplary means serving as a desirable model, representing the best of its kind, worthy of imitation, commendable.
Exemplary behavior, setting a perfect example.
Her exemplary behavior earned her recognition from the school administration.
Exactly. It means setting a remarkably high standard, serving as an outstanding positive role model, or a perfect example for others to follow. Truly exceptional and worthy of being emulated.
Excellent. And just one more assessment word related to blame. Clearing someone of blame, freeing them from it, proving innocence.
Ah, yes, exonerate. To exonerate is to absolve someone from blame for a fault or wrongdoing, especially after due consideration of the case. Like finding new evidence that proves innocence. Clearing their name.
New evidence exonerated the wrongly convicted man after years in prison. Precisely. It's the act of officially freeing someone from responsibility or guilt, often after an investigation proves their innocence. It restores their name and reputation.
Culpable, detrimental, efficacious, exacerbate, exploit, extol, futile, formidable, frivolous, exacting, exemplary, exonerate. Another powerful toolkit for evaluation, truly allowing for nuanced judgment.
Absolutely. These words allow for a really nuanced judgment. Okay, final section before we talk about integration, describing existence, states, and maybe even luck or inherent characteristics.
Yes, this group helps us articulate states of being, conditions, and the role of chance, or inherent characteristics. It helps us describe the world with greater clarity. So how do these terms allow us to describe things that are maybe temporary, permanent, or just happen by chance? Let's start with something that no longer exists or works, like an old factory. Closed down.
Exactly. It's defunct. Defunct means no longer existing or functioning.
The defunct factory was converted into a modern shopping center. That's a perfect example. No longer in use.
It describes something that has ceased to operate or exist, often implying obsolescence or being replaced. A defunct company, a defunct law, it implies a cessation of activity or relevance.
Okay, what about something not working now, but maybe could again in the future? Temporarily inactive. Sleeping, almost.
That's dormant. Dormant means of an animal having normal physical functions suspended or slowed down for a period of time in or as if in a deep sleep, or more generally, temporarily inactive or inoperative, like a dormant volcano.
The volcano had been dormant for over a century. So it's inactive, but with potential for reawakening, not gone forever.
Precisely. It signifies a state of temporary inactivity or suspension, but crucially, with the potential for future activity. Think of dormant talent, dormant seeds. It implies a hidden potential waiting to be activated.
Got it. Now, a more difficult one, a very strong visual word, describing someone extremely thin and weak, often due to illness or lack of food. Wasted away.
The word for that is emaciated. Emaciated means abnormally thin or weak, especially because of illness or a lack of food. It's a very strong visual word that conveys extreme physical distress.
It is. The emaciated refugees needed immediate medical attention. A stark, powerful description really paints a picture.
It's a stark description of extreme physical wasting, often due to severe deprivation, starvation, or disease. It conveys a profound state of weakness and depletion.
Okay, what about something specific to a particular place or group, like a disease common only in one region, or a plant native to an area, found only there?
That condition is endemic. Endemic means of a disease or condition regularly found among particular people or in a certain area, or of a plant or animal native or restricted to a certain country or area. Malaria is endemic to tropical regions.
Malaria is endemic to many tropical regions of the world. So it describes something naturally occurring or prevalent in a specific locale, part of that place.
Exactly. It describes a condition, characteristic, or species that is regularly found or is natural to a specific area or group, as opposed to something that has spread from elsewhere, which might be epidemic or pandemic. Endemic corruption, endemic species, it implies it's ingrained or part of the local fabric.
Now, we touched on epitome earlier.
Yeah.
The perfect example, the ultimate representation.
Yes, epitome, a person or thing that is a perfect example of a particular quality or type.
She was the epitome of grace. The perfect picture of
It is the epitome of grace and elegance at the formal event. Yes. It signifies the ultimate embodiment or representative of a quality or type, serving as the quintessential example, the epitome of luxury, the epitome of courage. It's the perfect ultimate representation.
Got it. And equivocal. We also mentioned this. Ambiguous, open to more than one interpretation. Unclear, perhaps deliberately.
That's right. Equivocal. Open to more than one interpretation. Ambiguous, often deliberately so.
His equivocal response left everyone confused about his true intentions. Does equivocal always imply a negative, deceptive intent? Or can it be, maybe, a strategic choice in certain diplomatic situations?
That's an insightful question. While it often carries a negative connotation of deliberately misleading, as in your example, equivocal language can indeed be a strategic choice in diplomacy or negotiation. Sometimes, maintaining ambiguity is necessary to keep options open or to avoid offending multiple parties. So it's about being open to multiple meanings, whether by design or by accident.
That adds a fascinating layer of nuance. Okay. What about someone incredibly knowledgeable, learned, someone whose expertise is profound, knows a huge amount?
That person is erudite. Erudite means having or showing great knowledge or learning.
An erudite professor seems to fit perfectly.
Erudite professor was respected for his vast knowledge. Yes, it emphasizes profound and wide-ranging knowledge, usually acquired through extensive study and reading. It suggests deep scholarship and intellectual prowess.
And what if someone deliberately avoids using something? Or abstains from it, maybe on principle, steers clear of it?
They eschew it. To eschew means deliberately avoid using, abstain from.
Eschew social media. A common one these days.
She eschewed social media to focus on her academic studies. Yes, it signifies a conscious and deliberate act of avoidance or rejection, often for a specific moral, practical, or principled reason. To eschew violence, to eschew luxury, it implies a considered decision to abstain.
Okay, how about using a mild word instead of a harsh one? Softening language to be more polite or less direct.
That's a euphemism. A euphemism is a mild or indirect word or expression substituted for one considered to be too harsh or blunt when referring to something unpleasant or embarrassing, like passed away instead of died.
Passed away is a common euphemism for died in polite conversation. Makes sense.
Exactly. Euphemisms are used to soften the impact of an unpleasant or sensitive topic, like death, bodily functions, or difficult situations. Downsizing, instead of firing, it's about softening the blow and making communication more palatable.
Okay. And we talked about fortuitous, happening by lucky chance rather than intention, a happy coincidence.
Yes, fortuitous, happening by chance rather than intention, but usually with a positive outcome, lucky.
A fortuitous meeting, just bumping into someone unexpectedly?
Their fortuitous meeting at the airport led to a lifelong friendship.
Exactly. It refers to an event occurring purely by chance but with a favorable result. It implies good fortune or a happy accident, distinguishing it from something planned or earned.
Happy accident, nice. And finally, someone careful with money, thrifty, managing resources wisely, not wasteful.
That person is frugal. Frugal means sparing or economical with regard to money or food, simple and plain and costing little.
A frugal lifestyle, saving carefully.
Her frugal lifestyle allowed her to save money for retirement. Yes, it describes careful and thrifty management of resources. Unlike stingy, which can be negative, frugal often implies wisdom, prudence, and a lack of wastefulness in spending. A commendable economic approach. Defunct, dormant, emaciated, endemic, epitome, equivocal, erudite, eschew, euphemism, fortuitous, frugal. Another great set covering existence, states, and chance.
A very useful collection indeed. So what does all of this mean for you, the listener? We've covered quite a few words, and this is just a fraction, truly, of the incredible C2 vocabulary available. And you might be thinking, okay, great words, I've grasped their definitions, but how do I truly make these words mine? How do you transform that passive recognition that, oh yeah, I think I've heard that word, into active fluency?
That really raises the most important question, doesn't it? It's not just about memorizing lists. It's about making each word part of your active language arsenal, integrating it so deeply that it becomes second nature when you speak or write.
Precisely. Every single word we've discussed today, and indeed every C2 word you encounter as you read and listen, is a crucial step closer to achieving that fluency, clarity, and confidence we talked about. It's about building a richer, more vibrant tapestry of language so you can express the true complexity of your thoughts.
That's spot on. And one of the most effective active integration strategies, I think, is consistent exposure combined with thoughtful observation. It sounds simple, but it's key.
It is. So, our first actionable tip, be a word detective. When you read editorials, listen to deep dives like this one, or engage with complex discussions, don't just let sophisticated vocabulary wash over you. Actively look for these words.
Pay attention.
Actively listen and read for their context. Pay incredibly close attention. Ask yourself, how does that word fit into the sentence structure? What subtle meaning does it add that maybe a simpler word couldn't? Why did the author or speaker choose that particular word over a common synonym? This kind of active listening and reading for context will elevate your comprehension hugely, and it starts building those crucial connections in your brain.
Absolutely. Become a word detective. And then the next step has to be actually using them, right? You can't just observe forever. You have to try them out.
Exactly. Our second tip, consistent use. You simply have to try and incorporate them naturally into your own communication, both when you write and when you speak.
Does it matter if it feels a bit forced or awkward at first? Like you're showing off or something?
Well, not at all. That's completely normal. Start small. Perhaps pick just 1 or 2 new words each week that really resonate with you. Actively look for opportunities to use them. Write sentences using them. Imagine real-life scenarios where you could use them. And then try them out in conversations, maybe with language partners or even just talking to yourself.
Practicing in the shower works too. Or talking to the cat.
It genuinely does. Even if it feels a little awkward or unnatural at first, that consistent repetition, that active recall, is how these words migrate from your passive vocabulary, the words you recognize, into your active everyday language, the words you use confidently and naturally.
And observing others helps there too, right? Paying attention to proficient speakers, how they use these words naturally.
Oh, immensely valuable. Our third tip, Emulate proficient speakers. Listen to how proficient English users, whether native speakers or highly advanced learners, apply these words. Notice the specific situations in which they choose these particular terms over simpler synonyms. Then, crucially, try to emulate their usage within similar phrases or common expressions, those collocations.
Ah, collocations. Yes, word partners.
Exactly. This really helps you grasp the idiomatic nuances and the natural rhythm of how the language actually works.
Yeah, context and collocation are so important at this level. And I guess we need to remind ourselves that this takes time. It's the journey, not a race.
Absolutely. Remember, the journey of mastering advanced vocabulary doesn't happen instantaneously. It's not like flipping a switch. It truly requires consistency day in, day out. It requires a deep sense of curiosity, always wanting to know why a word is used, and it requires unwavering determination, not giving up when it feels difficult. So think of it less as a sprint to some imaginary finish line.
Exactly. Think of it more as an ongoing exploration, a continuous journey where each new word you successfully integrate unlocks a fresh level of expressive power for you. It's about cultivating a habit of linguistic mindfulness, always seeking that perfect word, the mot juste, to express exactly what you mean.
And ultimately, all this effort, this exploration, this practice, it's about becoming a truly powerful and persuasive English communicator, isn't it? That's the
Boy,
goal. Becoming someone whose words genuinely reflect the profound depth and sophistication of their thoughts. It's about moving beyond simply conveying basic information to truly influencing, explaining complex ideas, describing nuanced feelings, connecting with your audience on a far deeper, more meaningful level.
that's a fantastic articulation of the goal. Well, that concludes our deep dive into C2 English mastery and advanced vocabulary for today. We sincerely hope this has given you a real sense of the sheer power these words hold and how they can profoundly transform your communication, whether for exams or just for life. And remember, this journey is all about continuous learning and refinement. It never really stops. The more you actively engage with these sophisticated terms, the more your understanding and your own expression will flourish. Every single word you integrate adds another vital brushstroke, another color to your own linguistic masterpiece. So what does this all mean for you personally listening right now? How will you take these nuggets of knowledge, these words we've explored, and carefully start to weave them into the fabric of your own daily conversations and your writing? How will you allow your thoughts to shine with greater clarity and more impactful precision? Stay committed, keep practicing consistently, and really let your words reflect the true depth of your thoughts. And hey, if you found this deep dive valuable, please do us a favor. Like this video, share it with anyone else who might benefit, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We genuinely appreciate your support.